You are now listening to two dudes in their 30s with Adam and Greg. They're gonna talk about stuff, and you're gonna listen. Okay, got it. Good. Let's start the show. Hell yeah!
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Yourself?
Good.
Nice.
I'm tuckered.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too, man. Not ready for this week.
I know. Sunday night, the week just like flew. Weekend just flew by. I kind of knew it was going to, but I'm just like whooped right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had the birthday celebrations yesterday for the little guy, which took up a good portion of the day. Went well, but yeah, had that going on, and then today Ashley's folks were in town, so they hung out for the morning, and then they took off and went over to my sister's, hung out for a little while, jumped in the pool, and then it's Sunday night at almost 9 o'clock. I'm ready to go to bed, actually, but got to wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
You know.
I haven't done anything this weekend. It's been like literally just relaxing. It's been great though. Yeah. Been watching a little bit of This Is Hardcore Fest.
Oh my god!
Have you
see
seen any of it?
Yeah, I do. I was gonna actually kind of add part of this in to the intro tonight because obviously we had Mike on. What episode was that? I don't remember.
Maybe like 5 or 6 weeks ago.
15. So we had Mike Scoville on from One King Down on episode 15. It was like we were at episode 22 right now, and that one was like one of the top 2 downloaded episodes that we've had so far.
Surprisingly, for some reason,
yeah, I guess that hardcore scene is just it's niche, but also it's people
really loyal, dedicated.
Oh yeah, totally.
Fans.
People want to find out what's going on. Like in One King Down, if you haven't listened to the episode, obviously haven't played together in a long time. They're from our area, from Albany, and they were playing this festival. So whatever, we talked to Mike about it, and they played this yesterday. And I was following This Is Hardcore on Instagram, and I knew the set list, I knew the set times, so I knew they were going on at 10:40, and I wanted to like get on Instagram and see if I could see some clips or like see if anybody was doing it live like on Instagram, but I passed out. I was so tired yesterday.
Really?
But then I woke up and I was just like obsessively refreshing. My kids were up last night like a ton, so I watched some videos on YouTube at like 3 in the morning of a couple songs. But did you see any of it?
Yeah, I saw like fans going wild.
Dude, it was
absolutely
insane.
crazy.
It was
like
insane.
Running across the stage.
I think they were like a little bit, not, I wouldn't say worried, but maybe a little bit wondering kind of what the reaction was going to be.
Yeah.
But it seemed pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think they have anything to worry about. I mean, people seemed very excited to like have them back or whatever. And they started with that More Hate Than Fear, which was the song that we played on the episode when we talked to Mike. Kind of like I guess it's kind of like their hit. People went nuts. So, Hey, play a second of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, the audio isn't going to do it justice, but you got to get on Instagram and just do a search of One King Down. And there's a couple of videos on YouTube now from the night. And there's actually this guy that does. He looks like he does like a ton of hardcore like film, like show like filming. It's like hate and then the number 5 and then the word spelled out 6, 856.
Okay.
And he he does like really good professional films of like tons of hardcore shows, and he's done This Is Hardcore the last couple of years, and it looks like they were there this time too, so eventually the full set will come out, but it's like professionally done with multi-angles. The audio is off the soundboard, so it's like really well like mastered and put together, so it's pretty cool. But I feel like in a brief conversation with Mike, we got to know him a little bit. And I was like, I felt very invested trying to like flip through and refresh. Like, I don't know. It was cool. It was good to check it out. It seemed like the reception was really good. So,
yeah.
Now we just got to hope for Albany.
Yeah, they were saying they were going to try to do a reunion show in Albany. So hopefully, obviously, Valentine's no longer there. I'd be kind of curious where they would have their venue.
Maybe like Upstate Concert Hall or something.
Yeah,
it's not Albany, but it's probably the most logical place to have like a decent size show. Depending on the draw, but look pretty cool. You were watching some of the other stuff too.
Yeah, there was a lot of bands. So like I was just scrolling through like the Instagram. I think we probably had the same thing. Obviously, both of us have the 2 Dudes 30 on
just
Instagram.
Use that account and just keep refreshing things and whatever.
Yeah,
but
it
cool.
looks like a good time though.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. So what else you got going on this week? Anything crazy?
Just busy with normal work stuff. Trying to think. Nothing during the week, I don't think. Besides normal, just running around.
Yeah.
Daycare drop off, work, whatever. How about you?
Trying to get like some medical stuff like taken care of. So
yeah,
I don't know. This week's probably gonna be pretty busy and pretty hectic. So
yeah.
I don't know. Been struggling.
All that stuff. Hopefully it gets all squared away soon. You can figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I saw on Facebook your sister and Mike are going through the craziness of trying to move.
Oh my God.
Have you talked to him at all?
Yeah. My sister's like ridiculously overwhelmed. If she's like pretty type A personality.
Teresa. I'm getting waved.
What's that?
I said I'm getting waved by Teresa. She snuck in behind you.
Oh, hey T. Yeah, so I think they're hiring like a moving company. I think that's the best for for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if and when we move again, I'm gonna have to hire a moving company too. It's too much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't. I don't know. There comes a point where you just can't ask your friends to do it anymore. And
well, that's the thing that's tough. Is you're just constantly relying on people, and especially as people get married, have kids of their own, have stuff going on. It's just too hard for people to like come and help you out. When you're younger, it's a little easier to just like keep relying on people. But
yeah,
you never want to be the guy with a truck, which you always were. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How many people have you moved in your life?
Oh man, I can't even count. It's been like random people too. Like I haven't talked to in like years.
Hey, how's it going? Want to get together? Oh, by the way, I'm moving.
Literally, this one guy just came out and goes, "I need to borrow your truck," and he didn't even say hello to me, anything. It's just like, "I need to borrow your truck." I was like, no, that's not happening."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Eventually, you get thick skin.
Check you later, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Anything else going on?
Oh, not really, man. Tomorrow, I guess I'm going to do some work for the Rockefellers. That would be kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, no.
You have to drive quite a ways?
Yeah, somewhere down in Hudson, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Cool.
So, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, a quick welcome to any of the new folks listening this week that maybe we pulled in from the ultra running community because of our guest. This is 2 Dudes in Their 30s, the show. I'm Greg. That's Adam. We just talk to each other and other people that come on each week. We're at episode 22, as I mentioned. So that's actually, I don't know. Would you say that's surprising that we're in the 20s?
Yeah, I think like it was pretty rough. Like, when we first started, we weren't really sure what the vision of the podcast would be like, and slowly we evolved into getting some interesting people on here and being able to talk and
just get more comfortable actually just talking and recording it and putting it out there or whatever. So
yeah,
it's cool. So we reached out. We have Mark Hammond on this week, which was a fun guest. Just another different person from a different walk of life who we haven't kind of talked to before. What'd you think? I mean, just a different kind of thing that he does, which is ultra running. It's kind of crazy. But
yeah, I just realized like how many different activities and sports and interests people have out there. I would never think in my life to go out and run like 100 miles through mountainous terrain. That to me it's insane. It takes like a certain person with like a really strong mindset and physical fitness to do something like that. What would you say? Like less than 1% of people can actually do something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's certainly a very niche thing still. But it's interesting, and it seems like actually, as we're talking about it, we actually talk to people that do a lot of niche things. When you like actually think about it, it's kind of cool actually. Like musicians that are doing their own thing, entrepreneurs, people that kind of live in like on their own, but I just kind of thought of that. But yeah, like the ultra running thing, I would have never known about either. when I started getting into like a little bit of marathon running back in like 2008, 9 ish area, maybe 10. I do what I do when I get involved and interested in some things for like a very flash short amount of time, which is get like obsessively down the rabbit hole of that thing. And I came across some YouTube videos of Anton Krupicka back that time, and I'd never even heard of ultra running. Never knew that there was even races longer than a marathon, I don't think, at that time.
Yeah.
I just kind of assumed that a marathon, I heard of an Ironman, but I never heard of like a running race, a foot race, like 50 miles, 100K, 100 miles or longer. And then I saw these videos. It was like, wow, this is crazy. I wonder if I could do that. And I sort of started to think a little bit about it, and then I got a little injured and I sort of waned, but I've always kind of been just since then, 8 years, like a casual ultra running fan, I guess you would say, just an observer, because I'm more or less just in awe of what they can do, what these athletes can do, which is train these massive weekly bases of miles up and down mountains. And I did 20,000 feet of vertical this week as part of my running.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So and they talk about it like it's normal.
Like so casual.
Yeah, very casually. But I think that is the point of this a little bit, is that when you put in the years and you put in the work and you do it smartly, the right way, by building up and building up and building up, that you can actually do these things, relatively safely. But yeah, so we've reached out to some ultra runners just because it was like the Western States 100 was this past was June, and it's one of the biggest ultra races in the world. It's a classic. I think it's the oldest 100-miler in the United States. It might have been the first one. It started out actually as a horse race, the story goes, and the guy that started the foot race, Gordy Ainsley, I guess his horse supposedly came up lame, and so he decided to just do the rest of it on foot.
Oh God!
And so he's been doing. He's like in his 70s now, and he entered again this year, but he didn't finish. I think he made it like 30 or 40 miles, something like that. But yeah, it's crazy. So it's kind of just a classic like race, and it's something that people like lottery to get in or win like races to try to get into. And Mark Hammond has finished third the last 2 years. Which is just a crazy feat in itself, and it's kind of put him on the radar and on the map of the ultra running scene. And so we reached out, and he was like, "Yeah, let's chat for a couple minutes." So that's what we did. You can listen to it now. We talked just a little bit about his background, about the race itself, kind of his future plans, and in the sport, and sort of what he's hoping to, I guess, get out of it. Picked his brain a little about how to kind of survive these things and how to train for these things, and had a little bit of an enjoyable chat. So
yeah. Let's flip it over there. You love saying that. Let's flip it.
Yeah,
Let's flip it over there to Mark Hammond.
Here he is. Check it out. Hello. Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Hey, this is Greg and Adam with the podcast. How's it going?
I'm at a Costco.
There's the dog. I know I reached out to you kind of briefly on Instagram, kind of went back and forth a little bit, and I appreciate you checking out that message, and we'll get Adam's dog to quiet down, and then we can get started.
All right.
Come here. What's wrong? You weirdo? All right, I think she's good.
So our podcast is kind of just all over the map in terms of guests, and we've talked to people that have been entrepreneurs, have been kind of early retirees, have been van life people. We talked to musicians, and you'd actually be our first athlete. And the reason that I've reached out to some different ultra runners is because this is kind of the time of year where, like with Western States 100, I get a little obsessive down the rabbit hole of the ultra running scene. And I know that you've had a lot of success, obviously, at that race in the last couple of years. And so I was like, you know what, let's reach out and see if you want to chat. And you were gracious enough to follow up with us. So we appreciate it. So if you don't mind, I'd be interested to know, kind of going back, obviously, before you even started in ultras, like what your athletic kind of background is and how you kind of got into this seemingly crazy sport on the outside in the first place.
Yeah, I've been involved in like rock climbing and mountaineering since I was about 14. So that's how I really built my fitness. But like in high school and college, I wasn't in competitive sports. I was actually in choir. So,
Quite the transition.
yeah. I learned good breathing technique in choir.
That's true.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I just spent, living in Utah on the Wasatch Front. It's easy to spend time in the mountains. So.
Is that where you grew up then, or?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so you've been around mountains and just been used to kind of going uphill and downhill for your whole life, basically.
Right.
Okay, and then how do you kind of make the transition from being a hiker and a climber and a mountaineer and I guess a skier and whatever into deciding to get into these longer distance running races?
Throughout my 20s, early 20s, I did some occasional running. Was never really serious about it. And then in my late 20s, I got this office job, and I didn't like sitting for 8 hours straight. So I decided to take my lunch breaks out, running around the block. And it just kind of went from there. I started adding more miles during my lunch run, and then decided I'd try some races. And because I already had a good fitness base from mountaineering, spending long days in the mountains, I made the jump to ultra marathons pretty quick. So that was my transition.
So did you ever do any shorter distance? I mean, it doesn't sound like you ran competitively ever, like track or anything like that, right? Cross country, nothing like that?
No.
Did you ever... Go ahead.
Yeah, I did some shorter races, like a 4-mile race uphill at the Snowbird Ski Resort. I think that was my first official race. And then I think my first marathon was the Leadville Marathon. So I did kind of build up in races.
Right. But I mean, Leadville, you're running a marathon at altitude there, right? But I guess you lived at altitude, right? So.
Yeah, here in Salt Lake, I'm at 4,200 feet.
Okay.
So,
yeah. It's
yeah,
not sea level. It's not Albany where we are.
No.
So did you feel competitive at those shorter distances though? I'm always curious because it seems like a lot of people on this scene sort of started out in the cross country or the high school track kind of scene, and they were fast at 5Ks or the mile, or then they moved up to the half marathon, the marathon, and then they're just kind of gradually or faster in longer races. But for you, it doesn't seem like that was sort of you don't seem to fit that mold, I guess.
No, I wouldn't say in my first competitive races I did that great. Maybe I was 10th place or something, but they weren't full of elites or anything like that either.
Sure.
So however, in my mountaineering endeavors, I tended to be one of the faster guys in the group, so I kind of had a hunch that I had a talent for that.
What started the interest in the ultra running? What kind of got you into that?
I think just because some of my mountaineering friends were experimenting with ultras, and I'd read their race reports, and it just sounded really interesting. Just really intrigued by how someone could run that far in one day. So yeah, it was just friends.
So now we just want you to answer that question. How do you actually do that?
I really find that doing these long races in the mountains makes it so much more enjoyable because the pace is changing so much, going up and down through different kinds of terrain, and the scenery is really nice. And I think just that, and also the fact that it's a competition makes it more interesting. And so I don't think anyone really gets bored in ultras. Well, maybe some people do, but people ask me, what do I think about when I'm running that long? And I'm just thinking about the competition and what to eat and what kind of terrain I'm running on. So they feel like they go by pretty quick. A day goes by really fast in an ultra.
Have you
for people who don't know though, an ultra, that's 100 miles you're doing in a day, in 24-hour period. What do you have to eat, and what does your training regimen kind of look like for getting ready for something like that?
Of course, it really depends on what course I'm training for. So, like if I'm getting ready for a flatter course like Western States, I might do like 120 or 130 miles a week with 20,000 vertical. Or a more mountainous course, I might do only like 90 a week, but 30,000 vertical.
Wow.
So, you know, it comes out to around 20 hours a week on average. And as far as like what I eat, it's usually just energy gels, just real simple, you know, sugars. They do have some amino acids in them, but you know, when I'm pushing that hard, I can't handle much more than just gels.
I was going to ask, so you're not a real food person in 100 at all?
No, I not at that pace. I mean, I like to try like a 200 miler where the pace is slow enough I could eat real food.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Have you ever had
liquids and gels.
Have you ever had a situation though when like in 100 so far where you've kind of lost your stomach and you just could not stomach like another like one more like your 35th goo, you just couldn't do another one?
Yeah, that does happen. In fact, towards the end of Western this year, there was a certain kind of gel I couldn't handle much anymore, and I was kind of puking it up in the last miles.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you know, and it kind of changes. Like, you know, you can handle a certain gel really well during a race, and then the next year, for some reason, it's like your stomach changes, and you got to switch.
You just never want to see it again.
Kind of sugar.
I guess
it's like your body processes different sugars at different rates, and so you kind of have to figure out what you need. It's like a moving target.
I guess that's better than you know, throwing up than coming out the other end, you know. So
yeah, that's true. Yep.
I mean, if you read people's race reports, like stomach is like key, obviously, right? If you don't have your stomach one way or the other, you're never gonna be able to make it. You're not gonna be able to move forward. I mean, I think. So what was your? I mean, obviously you did Western a couple years ago, back-to-back thirds, right?
Yep.
Difference at all between last year and this year, and sort of what their race kind of felt like? Last year was your first year doing it?
That's right.
Okay. So obviously kind of a newbie and seeing that course or racing on that course for the first time at least. So what were some of the differences from, you know, last year to this from your perspective?
Well, last year the conditions in the first third of the course were just awful.
Snow, right?
Yeah. The Sierras had a record snow year, so you know we're breaking through all these snow bridges, and we had deep mud and running down creek beds, and it was just a mess. Like a lot of guys rolled their ankles, and there were DNFs and stuff. So the high country was pretty slow. So I thought this year would go faster. However, this year was quite a bit hotter. So it's hard to say. Like, I think overall, I was faster and more fit this year. But the fact that the high country was in much better shape, you know, helped me go 45 minutes faster. Yeah.
How much of like the ultra running would you say is mental, and how much of it would you say is a physical endurance?
I'd say half and half. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it just goes, you know, you look at guys like Jeff Browning, he's age 46, and he's still, you know, one of the best in the game. He's beating guys who are half his age. And it just goes to show how much wisdom matters in these longer races. It's kind of like the longer the distance, the more your brain matters. because there's just these variables. It gets more complicated with distance, you know, like things like what you're eating and what you're wearing and how conditions change over the day. They become very important. So yeah, it's fun to think that I could be doing this around the same level in 10 years.
Yeah. This might be like a little deep for this, but in a Costco. But I think it seems to be that when you're going to run, you know, a 50K, a 50 miler, you know, 100K, 100 miler, whatever the distance is, you know, beyond it really what a marathon, which is what most people would consider quote unquote a normal long distance run. I would assume as you continue to kind of build up that distance that you continue to kind of harden yourself mentally. But I would assume that you continue to kind of break through barriers of things that you thought you could kind of do. So would you feel that like getting into something like this has just hardened you, or kind of shown you what the human body is actually capable of beyond what your kind of wildest thoughts were? Or having grown up in an environment when you were outside maybe hiking all day anyways, was this more of an easier, kind of a less radical thing to think about even doing in the first place, if that makes sense as a question?
Well, I mean, when I first heard of 100-mile races, I thought it was ridiculous. And when I was starting my first one, 4 years ago, I just thought, what have I gotten myself into? Yeah, it did seem like just at the absolute edge of human performance. But as I've done more and more, yes, it has kind of broadened my perspective on what the human body can handle. And I think it's given me more confidence in everything else I'm doing in life. So, yeah, it's a very, very positive, reinforcing journey doing these races.
I had a soccer coach growing up, and we used to do like fitness and stuff, and over the summer, like getting ready for the season, and guys would be like basically keeling over and just about on the verge of getting sick and whatever from the sprints or running around the field. And he used to be like just screaming at us, trying to get ready for the season, like, your mind quits way before your body does. You don't know the level that you're capable of reaching. This is, you're not at the point. And back when I was a 17-year-old kid doing those sprints and feeling nauseous, I was like, no, this is what I can do. This is it. Like, I can't go beyond that. Yeah. But then you watch like a video of, whatever, the 100,000 of, the long distance, whether it's a Billy Yang or whoever else, documentaries on ultras, and you see man and women throwing up on the side of the trail and whatever, and then continuing on, and it's like, okay, then they're past that level that I've ever been to. So it's just kind of, I don't know, for me, I'm kind of interested in the mental aspect of it more than anything else, I guess.
Yeah,
it's just kind of
there's been some races where I've hit this wall and it feels like I'm just going to have to drop out. And then, somehow I convince myself to keep going. And eventually I get back to feeling as if that bonk had never happened. It's like a complete, complete resurrection almost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is amazing how you can go through these, just the most extreme lows and then come right back. I read about it all the time from other runners.
And I think it seems to be that like the original mentality of an ultra, or kind of the old school, quote unquote, if you will, mentality was kind of finish at all costs. Whether it's, slow down, walk it in 40 miles, kind of do whatever you have to do to finish. And then, but it seems like more recently, I don't know how far back it goes. I'm not an expert certainly in the field, but obviously with like, with Jim Walmsley and other people before him that have started to do these things faster and faster and faster, yourself included, it seems to turn into more walking the line between crashing and not, and maybe trying to do it obviously quicker, but maybe finishing isn't kind of number one. It's more about being competitive. Where do you stand on that kind of debate, if you will?
Yeah, I've dropped out of quite a few races myself, and so yeah, I do feel like for professional runners, mostly, the goal is not to finish as many races as you can. It's to perform really well. So you get to a point where you're not going to finish well. It's better to drop out and save yourself for the next race than just beat yourself up just for the sake of finishing. Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of people just drop out because they don't want to put a bad time by their name. I've done that before. Mm-hmm. But like a lot of guys like me are running 10 races a year, and so it doesn't always make sense to finish one. It can be, it's a really hard call to make a lot of times.
Sure. I mean, I think, there's certainly a difference too between the competitive, people at the front, male or female, and the mid-packer, where it's like, for the mid-packer, it's kind of like, this is about finishing. It's not about place. And for somebody like yourself, you're going in to try to be, you're running Western this year to win or to finish top 10 or whatever, right? I mean, you're not thinking about just running it to run. You can finish it. You know, it's not really about that for you, I guess. But I saw some stuff, you know, specific to Walmsley, not to name drop him continuously, but that where people were kind of like, you know, this is his last chance, you know, this is kind of like, you better do it now or else kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know that I get that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that want a spot in this thing and want to try to finish it too. So I don't know. I guess I can see both sides of it. So just kind of curious where you fell on that. So what, are you in UTMB? Is that up for you this coming soon or?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So that's the big goal then. I saw a couple other things on Ultra Sign Up that it looked like you might have been registered for, but I'm assuming UTMB is the number one for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I haven't checked. I don't know if you're on Strava or not. I haven't checked, but I'm assuming then that means that it's a lot more up and down as opposed to flatter running.
Right.
Have you done it before or no?
No.
Have you been over there?
Nope.
Oh wow. Okay.
So,
What's the training been like for that then?
you know, I've just been going up to the ski resort a lot, and also just there's a mountain right next to my house. It's 3,000 feet in 2.2 miles, so you know, nice and steep. So lots of time, you know, using poles going up those mountains. I've never run a race with that much vertical before, so I'm just kind of guessing what I need to do. But you know, I ran UTMF in the spring, and that had 27,000 vertical. So, you know, I have an idea what it's going to feel like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a totally different thing than Western States. I mean, it's a longer day out there overall, right? It's overnight too, right? It's running pretty much starts at night, right?
Yeah, it starts at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So you have to run through the night, and that's how UTMF was as well. You start midday and run through the night.
Gotcha.
So I'm used to that because I've run a bunch, and you know they have you start at noon, and so you have to run through the night.
So you're running overnight, so you're used to that. Was your goal to try to get to the track this year without a headlamp, or did you think that was doable?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate night running. I really do. Because I'm not good at it. So I think my vision isn't that good. So.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, I was going to ask you the vision thing too. I have to ask it. Are you still like losing partial sight in your eye as you do these things, or what happened with all that?
Yeah, it happened twice at Run Rubber Run. You know, it cost me the win last time. But I've found that if I just wear eye protection, like you know, clear goggles during the night, then it really doesn't happen. So it's just a matter of like the eye drying out, especially running at altitude and dry air. Mm-hmm. It just gets bad.
Wow.
And I think running on like dusty roads compounds it.
Okay. Must have been a little bit of it must have been a freak out though the first time you're doing that and you're thinking like, what is happening to me right now?
Yeah. It's like, you know, I think the first time I was like, I think my headlamp is going out, you know, something's wrong. And it wasn't until the end of the race when I looked at my eye in the mirror.
Oh God!
It's all cloudy. Like, oh, this is not good.
Crazy.
But it clears up after like a half hour, so it's nothing too serious, I don't think.
Wow. you hope not, right?
Yeah, I mean, according to the iRun Far did an article about it, and you know, it's a lot more common than I first thought.
Gotcha.
Wow. I was listening to an interview with David Goggins, the guy like Navy SEAL. The first time he ever did like an ultra run or qualifying for an ultra run, and he said like by the end of it, he was peeing blood and just like diarrheaing uncontrollably. Just like the toll that it takes on your body is insane.
Yeah, it can be like that. I think rhabdo is what it's called when you start peeing blood.
Yeah.
Have you? Luckily, you haven't had a whole lot of injuries in your races or what?
No, knock on wood. I mean, actually, I had a blister during Western. I kind of threw off my stride, and I think I like tore something in my right quad, and so my recovery has been slower than normal. I think I'll be okay, but it's just interesting how little things like that can be a big problem in the end.
I mean, I guess if that crops up like 60 miles in, you're like 40 miles of a strange gait that you're not used to that could really cause some damage that you're not really thinking about, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like something felt kind of off late in the race, and I wasn't sure why. Like, am I just cramping or whatever? I was having to like lean back on my heels more than normal, and then it wasn't until after a few days, when all the other soreness went down, I could kind of pinpoint where the problem was.
Right.
I think it actually started with a blister on my left foot.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I saw your interview with Ira and Far, which I think was the day after, so obviously you didn't mention it then. But I mean, you probably were feeling completely trashed from like the waist down anyway, so you wouldn't have known, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Everything just hurts. Right?
The whole Goggins thing, like he's an impressive guy, but at the same time, I would like to. I think it seems like as I read more about people that do this regularly, like you and other people, that when the prep is there, that stuff like that shouldn't really happen, right? I mean,
But, sorry, the what guy?
if the Goggins, like about how he got sick and he was peeing blood and he was like having all these problems like physically, like if the prep work is there and you've done the mileage and you've done the training and you're used to like how much you need to drink and how much you need to eat and all that stuff, then stuff like that shouldn't really necessarily happen. It could go wrong, obviously, but it shouldn't necessarily happen to that extreme, should it? I mean,
no, I don't think so. Yeah, your body should be pretty well adapted to that kind of stress. So
I've done some like half marathons, marathon or whatever, and I keep well, it's not threatening, but I keep telling people around me that I'm going to do the Vermont 50 here at some point because we're in the Northeast. So it'd be like next September. So I told my mom again for the second year in a row. I didn't do it last year, and she's pretty much like threatened to disown me now. I think I'm just about the same age as you. So how do you convince a woman of a different generation that something like help me make the case to my mother that with the proper prep, this is very doable?
I mean, look at all the people in their 60s and 70s finishing 100 milers, and really it's all a matter of pace. Like, I mean, you're running like 2 to 3 minutes per mile slower than in a marathon. So as long as you pace yourself and eat and drink enough, it's really not too hard. I don't know if I should be saying that, but that's how I feel.
I mean, there's a level of hard, but
yeah. It's so hard to pace yourself right in hundreds. Like almost everyone goes out too fast.
I was gonna say, I mean, you're just out there for so long that how do you I mean, right? Everybody kind of goes out and then you come back to reality, hopefully before it's too late, so you can kind of make sure you're not behind on water and food and everything else. What's the plan for UTMB? When are you heading out there? And, just some general thoughts on the race and sort of what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to go like explore the course and the country and everything, but we're not going to get out there until my wife and I won't get out there until like 3 days before the race. So
okay, you're working a regular day job, you said still, right?
Yeah.
So you got to like use time off and all that stuff to get out there.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how it is, and it'll be cool. I'll get to stay in. It's kind of like a museum almost. It's the Gravel House over in Courmayeur, and there's like all these old mountaineering artifacts, like Edmund Hillary's boot.
Okay, yeah. That's cool.
So anyway, we'll stay there for one night before the race, and then hopefully do some climbing in Chamonix, and then we'll probably fly out like Monday after the race.
Okay,
so we'll just have just a week.
You're in and out then.
Yeah.
You're gonna do everything in your power not to like explore those mountains like in the 3 days before.
Yeah, it's very tempting. It'll be hard, but there's some climbing just right close to the city, so that should be fine.
I saw an interview. I think it was with Tim Tollefson. I think he's been in the top like 3 in the last couple of years from the U.S. And I think he was saying like the second year he went back, he had been there already and he had done some exploring and stuff. So he just wasn't nearly as tempted to like get up there a couple days before and just try to save his legs and do some flat running around. So good luck sticking to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you go ahead, Adam?
Yeah, I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and notice your speed holes in your shirt. Does that help?
It's all about saving weight, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
A little bit more aerodynamic.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like about striking a balance between ventilation and sun protection.
Yep.
And then, and of course, I like having the shirt because I can soak it at aid stations, and and the cotton holds on to water longer than the polyester. I don't think actually holes that big are necessary. Like I wore the same shirt that I did last year, just kind of as like a good luck thing almost.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to wear it again. I think kind of grody.
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
What kind of crew did you have at Western States, or do you rely mainly on the aid stations? Do you have a pretty big crew out there?
Not a big crew. I just had my wife and then a friend.
Oh wow, okay.
So,
And no pacers or anything?
I mean, I didn't have any. No, I don't feel like for me pacers are that helpful. Like, I don't like to talk when I'm running, so and I don't. I don't know. The pacer thing is kind of an American deal, and I think it's cool for people who are like doing 100 their first time or whatever. But I question how fair it is for like professional level races. Like Run Rabbit Run doesn't allow pacers. I don't know. Jim didn't have a pacer. Browning didn't. Sherman didn't. Like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, you guys towards the front, you guys have it pretty dialed in at this point. You know what you're doing, right? So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
You're going to pretty much be able to get, from aid station to aid station, which is what, 5 miles ish at a time.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah. And what about going over to UTMB, or are you having anybody besides your wife over there with you to help you out, or is it just going to be you kind of out there doing it?
Well, a lot of the Ultra team will be over there. Like Ultra was actually renting a house for us, so it'll be nice. And so there'll be a bunch of Ultra guys. I think they'll probably help with crewing, so that'll be nice.
Gotcha. So you'll have some friendly faces over there as you bounce through in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Goals for the race? You don't have to give me a time or a place, but just very generally speaking, what's on your mind right now as we sit here? What, like a couple weeks out, 3-4 weeks out?
Yeah, I think I'm capable of finishing the top 10. I think with a really good performance could be top 5, and that's saying a lot because that's like the most competitive trail race in the world. So, assuming I can put in the training block I'm hoping to get, then yeah, I think I can do that. Killian Jornet is running, so
yeah, so that's
getting the win would be something really amazing.
Yeah, I mean he's on a level, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Of his own.
How many hours are you putting in a week of practice right now for it?
This week I haven't done a whole lot, but the next 3 weeks I'll put in like 20 to 24. So, it comes out to about over 3 hours a day. I train pretty much 6 days a week and then rest Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I like to break it. I like to break it up into like 2 or 3 sessions. So like I'll run on the treadmill in the morning. I have a like kind of a modified treadmill that allows me to run downhill at a pretty steep angle, and then I'll tend to run in the evenings like at a ski resort or whatever.
So just like continually a lot of up and down and just trying to get the miles in and get it ready to roll.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe like a speed workout once a week or something, but mostly just getting in the miles.
Cool. Well, good luck with that, man. Adam, do you have anything else, or we should let Mark be on with this Friday? Thanks for doing this on Friday night. My God, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm glad we're able to make it work out. Hey, you were, I guess one more thing I wanted to ask before I let you go. Obviously, as you continue to, you have a regular job, but as you continue to place high in these races, there continue to be more and more opportunities. Are you hopeful of making the jump about potentially being able to do this on a full-time basis, or are you comfortable in what you're doing and how you're attacking these right now between a life, professional, running perspective?
It has gotten harder to find time to train since I've been married. I can do it, but it's really tight. So if I got the opportunity to run full-time, I'd definitely take it. Take advantage of these years I can be most competitive. But then again, running full time carries a lot of risk. A lot of guys who do that tend to burn out and get injured, so I have to be wary of that.
Sure.
I would love to be a full time runner. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, I think you have a platform here in a couple of weeks to maybe kick that in another direction. So best of luck. I'll be keeping an eye out for you, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
Take care.
So that was our conversation with Mark Hammond. It's just really cool, interesting insight into the mindset is what I was most interested. Like, how in the world can you push yourself beyond like what you think is physically capable?
That's
that's
my biggest thing too. Like, not to cut you off, sorry, but like the idea of going 100 miles is like crazy to think of, right? Just as we're sitting here. But like I've run in races or run in workouts or done different things, as I said, like when I was talking about my soccer or like background or whatever, where you really feel like you hit your limit, like you hit your physical limit, like I can't possibly go anymore. And I think these people like that do these races, they shatter those kind of ceilings that I think we all impose on ourselves, what we think is our max.
Absolutely.
And that to me is the most kind of intriguing part of the whole thing, and where this could take you mentally, I guess, and what it does to you,
Yeah, how often do we have those things in our life? Obviously not running, but you can take it in your work life and in your relationships, whatever, like where you're stressing out about situations or whatever, and to be able to push through. That's something that I'm going to try to take from this conversation. Just push through those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can actually apply that to other areas of your life as well, where you think like, I can't do it anymore. I've reached my limit, and that's not true. I think in almost every case, So pretty crazy. So you can follow Mark on Instagram. You can search Mark Hammond, or you could just look him up. It's mark.d.hammond, Hammond on Instagram. He's a little over 1,000 followers, and this guy is top 3 in the last 2 years in Western States. So if you're an ultra running fan, get on this guy. Follow this guy on Instagram, and check him out. Hopefully he gets that little billing injury that he sounds like he had figured out, and he's good for UTMB, and hopefully he has a strong performance there as well. So you want to hit him with our social media, and we can wrap this thing up.
Yeah, so if you guys have enjoyed this, check us out at 2dudes30 and Instagram. And my dog's over here barking.
Threw you off.
Me up. Come on, Heatwave, get over here. All right, so you can check us out at 2dudes30 at Instagram.com or 2dudes30
Not Instagram.com.
Oh my God, cut this out.
No, I'm keeping this too.
Okay, so just check us out.
2dudes30 on everything. Just add everything. Facebook, Instagram, at gmail.com. And if you like what you hear, you can follow us on YouTube on the channel. You can rate and review, follow the show on iTunes, subscribe to us, please, and tell a friend. And I had to cut in there and take over. Sorry, man.
Yeah, we're amateurs at this. So.
We play music at the end of every episode. We kind of mix it up occasionally, but we're coming back to what our traditional one is, which is Enigmatic Heart. You can check these guys out as well at Enigmatic Heart NY on Facebook.com. And that's us for another week. We'll be back in 2 more weeks with another show. Adam, have a great week.
Time now, through his eyes now he I like this.
That's a microphone. Want to sing a song?
Uh-huh.
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I will nobody go round and down. People want to go up and down, over the town.
You say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.